Welcome to another Baka commentary video. In this video, I'll be doing another review. In this review, I'll be comparing the Samsung T5 1TB against the Samsung T7 1TB portable SSD. So, you're asking me, what is my testing platform on? It's done on my editing rig, R7 1700X, PBO to 3.9 GHz, RAM 3200 CL16, and X370 Gigabit X370 Gaming 5 motherboard. These are pretty good for this pretty high-end config for an AMD system. So, how did I test it? I used the rear I/O USB 3.0 ports and the USB-C 10, the 3 and the 10 gigabit port. The 3.0 is limited to the 5 gigabit per second. So I want to test it in both scenarios in a 5 gigabit port and a 10 gigabit port to test the external SSD. For the test, I only have one of each. So I only have one T5 drive and a one T7 drive. So now that you know my test platform, let's get on with the test result. So with the USB 3.0 5 gigabit port test, why did I test this? I intend to test this in the worst case scenario where some people will do this, where they just plug it into any USB port, and most USB port, lowest common denominator, USB 3.0 5 gigabit per second port. So yeah, and what software I use? Crystal Benchmark to the T5 and the T7 drive. The T5 drive in USB 3.0 5 gigabit per second beat the T7 drive. The T5 drive reached 458 megabyte per second read and the 465 megabyte per second write. The T7 drive came trailing 426 megabyte per second read and write 422 megabyte per second. This was done with the loop test within Crystal Benchmark, where you can click down to repeat the test how much time. The maximum was 9, so I used it, and the file size I used was 1 gigabyte. However, the T7 and T5 drive, what really made it separate is in the USB-C 10 gigabit port. The T7 drive finally beats the T5 drive, but at 874 megabyte per second read and write 839 megabyte per second. T5 drive, that reached 567 megabyte per second read and 531 megabyte per second write. So the Samsung T5 drive has reached the advertised speed by freaking Samsung read and write. However, with the T7 drive, I don't know. As on my test platform, it seems to not be able to go as advertised 1000 megabyte per second read and write. So, opinion and what do I think of this? The Samsung T5 and the Samsung T7. The Samsung T5 I think is a more all-rounder SSD. It's kind of like, if all you're going to be doing is store file, run VM, one VM off of it, or just doing like me 1080p video editing, which I do off of this. I think this T5 drive, if you have one, keep it, don't upgrade. The T7 drive really comes when you need the NVMe and really high, these really high speed. So stuff like 4K video editing, and for the people that know they need these things, go buy one. Knowing with caveat, which is later on I will talk about. So, with the caveat, the Samsung T5, I see no caveat, and it's pretty good. It performs pretty well on a USB 3.05 gigabit, 5 gigabyte per second port, pretty well, and it pretty good on the 10 gigabit port. The T7, I think, is a bit weaker on the 3.05 gigabyte per second. However, if all your USB ports on your system is all 10 gigabit per second, okay, the T7 drive. But however, T7 drive runs really hot. Like when I finished running the test and kind of used my bare hand to touch the T5 and T7 drive, the T5 drive was like, yeah, it's warm, you can hold on to the T5 drive fine. But after the test, when I touched the T7 drive, it was hot. It's not gonna burn you, but like it really felt that the whole external drive was just, the heat was really hot and warm, and maybe on borderline of thermal throttling. I think if I kept repeating the test, I think there would have been some thermal throttling. So in conclusion, unfortunately, I have to give this win to the Samsung T5 drive, as that seemed to be well more balanced in speed, and as that seemed to be able to do files at the consistent speed. But meanwhile, the Samsung T7 drive is going to be really fast at the start, but as the drive heat gets saturated and can't cool the drive fast enough, it's gonna start dropping in performance, as controllers don't like hot temperatures. However, yeah, if you're willing to deal with this really hot borderline thermal throttling T7 drive, I guess you can buy it. For the people that can still find a T5 drive, I think it's best to buy that. And yeah, I hope you enjoy this video of this review / opinion piece. By the way, I done this all out of my pocket. My T5 1TB drive, I paid for it myself, went to a retail, bought it. The T7 drive, again, I went to retail and bought it. Samsung did not sample me these T5 and T7 drive, and when I attempted to contact my local Samsung media / tech support, they didn't. It's been over 2 weeks, and they didn't really respond to me. So hence why I think, yeah, bad Samsung. Anyway, if you want more of these videos where I go out and buy the actual product and not getting sampled by the manufacturer, donate in the link below. It will really help me in the future to just know I have viewers willing for me to pay for some of my expenditure for my products that I'm going to be reviewing, and I'm able to keep it and not have to sell it, so that I can in the future do the testing. As well as always, I'm going to ask you to do the typical YouTuber thing. Please press the like and subscribe for more videos from Baka Commentary.